This is Your Anxiety Toolkit, episode number 150. How exciting. Welcome to Your Anxiety Toolkit. I'm your host, Kimberly Quinlan. This podcast is fueled by three main goals. The first goal is to provide you with some extra tools to help you manage your anxiety. Second goal, to inspire you. Anxiety doesn't get to decide how you live your life. And number three, and I leave the best for last, is to provide you with one big, fat virtual hug. Because experiencing anxiety ain't easy. If that sounds good to you, let's go. Well, welcome back. This is episode number 150. I cannot believe we have made it here. I really celebrated 50. I really celebrated 100. In fact, if you haven't heard episode 100, please do go back and listen. It is epic. We did a virtual 100 episode party. I loved it. I still go back and listen to it myself. But for this one, we're just going to keep on trucking along. No party today. But we are talking about something that is very, very important and something that I have been meaning to talk about for some time. And one of my absolutely amazing community members reached out and said, I'm really, really wanting that episode you said that you were going to do. And so here I am. Okay, before we get started, let's do the I did a hard thing for the week. And this one is from Julia. She said, I am doing ERP again after OCD has resurfaced and I'm not avoiding TV shows which trigger the OCD. I'm also going back on medication to look after myself. Now, there is a reason why I love this so much because it is totally in line with today's episode. So, think about this. We are all creatures that require safety. Safety is a huge piece of our physiology and biology and our emotional ability to cope. Now, a huge piece of that, and a piece that I think we don't talk about enough, is trust. How important is trust for our safety? Super, super big, right? So the conversation really twists here because a lot of people, particularly who have anxiety or depression, tend to report to me that they really don't trust themselves, that trusting themselves gives them a tremendous amount of anxiety and is often the reason they do compulsive behavior or other safety behaviors, because it feels really, really scary to have that responsibility. And, it may be that they've let themselves down in the past, maybe as well. And I really wanted to give you a metaphor that I love that I think may help you really conceptualize how to look at trust. Now, Brene Brown, who everybody knows and I love, talked about having a trust jar, not an actual jar. However, I'm sure you could use it and make it an actual jar. But what she said is, when you meet somebody, they have an empty jar, metaphorically. And over time, as they show you in little ways, it might be their consideration, their respect for you, maybe they remembered your birthday, maybe they asked how your parents were, maybe they sent you a little care package. These things, every time someone does that for you, it's like putting one marble in the jar. And if they do another small thing, you put another marble in the jar. And if they do another small thing, another marble. And over time, that jar fills up. And then we experience a sense of trust for that person, right? Now, it's interesting. Sometimes if, let's say, a very dear friend of mine says, oh, you really need to meet my accountant. You'll love him. I really trust him. Me meeting the accountant might mean that I've already got a full trust jar. The marbles are there because I trust my friend to give me a good recommendation. So that is sort of the basis of trust. Trust is something that grows. And the most important piece to remember here is trust doesn't come from often the big, big things. It comes from the teeny tiny things, right? Maybe a little smile when they can see that you're having a hard time, or checking in with you, or holding a safe place for you when you're struggling. So even though they're small, I think they're even huge, so that's also very relative. So now that we have that conceptualization, that trust is something we build over time, we also have to recognize that when somebody has let us down, depending on the degree of them letting you down, the marbles may come out. Maybe half the marbles, maybe all the marbles, maybe just one, depending on how severe the betrayal was or the letdown was, right? Maybe your slight feeling of disappointment. And so this becomes sort of this jar that gets filled up and then emptied, and it changes. But we can always grow trust. Even if someone has completely betrayed us, we can, if we want to, build trust back up. It's usually kind of giving them a second chance. Often when someone has been very seriously betrayed, they may make the choice. I don't want to trust that person. I don't want to ever put myself in that position again. Whereas other people might say, no, I really love this person. I'm willing to take the risk that they do it again. And they give them another chance to build up that jar of trust. Now, this applies to us too. We trust ourselves based on little small acts that we do for ourselves. And building trust is about those small acts. It's about taking care of yourself, making sure you're well fed, making sure you're listening to your body when you're tired. It's about doing the hard thing instead of the easy thing. And that's a huge one. I think we get 2 marbles for every time we do that, because there's a sense of, I've got your back unconditionally, even during the difficult times. Exposure and response prevention would also be putting a marble in, because it's you moving towards your long-term well-being, right? Every exposure you do, or every time you go to therapy, you may build a degree of trust for yourself because you're taking care of yourself. Now, just like I said before, if you do betray yourself, you ignore your needs, you put yourself down, you in any way harm, will you take out some of those marbles? And so here you have this conceptualization where you can build trust at any time. And it's often about the intention to build trust, right? If I've let a friend down, or my partner down, or my child down, I will intentionally try to gain their trust back. And I'll do it in very small ways. Being there for them, being kind to them, showing up for them. Now, this is the case for me as well. If I, have let myself down, I show up in small ways intentionally with the intention that I want to trust myself. Now, often I hear my patients and clients talk about that they don't trust themselves and I don't deserve to. Okay, let's think about that. Even if, let's say, you did the worst thing, you have to live with you in your body and in your mind for the rest of your life. If someone else betrayed you and you really didn't need them in your life, and you can make a life where you don't have to see them and don't get hurt by them, you could say, I don't want to trust that person. But you're really getting in your own way if you don't give yourself permission to trust yourself, because you're going to be around yourself for the rest of your life. This is really important. A lot of the time when I'm doing really hard work in therapy with clients, they back down because they're like, no, I can't do this. I can't. And I'll say, this is a matter of trust. The only reason you think that is because you haven't in the past. But now you're in this path, this process of learning to trust. And it's an intention that you have to work on every day. And through those small acts, you'll get there. Fair enough. There will be days when you lose marbles. Not like you lose your marbles. That's a saying. That's a whole other podcast. But I'm talking about there will be days where you take some marbles out of that metaphorical jar, right? We all make mistakes, but we can all stand up and make the intention to build trust again. For ourselves, it has to be unconditional. That's where our long-term wellness can benefit. So I'm going to challenge you guys. Think about how full your jar is for the people around you and the one for yourself. And then ask yourself, how intentional am I about building up that jar? Or how intentional are they about building up my jar? Maybe they're not intentional at all, and you may want to reconsider how much you depend on that person. And so think about it. Just ponder on it. And I urge you to begin this journey with yourself. That's the most important one. Learning to trust yourself. To turn back, that's why I loved this first I Did a Hard Thing segment, right? She said, I'm going back on medication. I'm starting back with exposures. That's how she'll build retrust again. She's not avoiding things that scare her. You know, I can see her jar filling up really fast, which is wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. So go and fill up your jar as best as you can. I'm hoping that I have built your trust, and I hope to continue to build your trust because, you know, you have many, many options of where you can get information from, and I really value building your trust over time. So thank you for that opportunity. I will intentionally keep working on building your trust and mine as well. So I love you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. Please note that this podcast or any other resources from cbtschool.com should not replace professional mental health care. If you feel you would benefit, please reach out to a provider in your area. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for supporting cbtschool.com.